Hi, I'm Michael with Thrive and Grow Gardens, and we're out here this morning finishing up some raised garden beds that we've just recently installed. And we're at these last steps of doing some final amendments to the garden soil before we plant. And I want to talk to you a little bit today about garden soil, and this is going to have a focus on our desert region, where we tend to have very similar types of compost available to us throughout Tucson and also the Phoenix region. So throughout the years of running this business, Thrive and Grow Gardens, and helping people to get better results in their garden, we've really gone through a long process of figuring out how to best use the resources that are available to us. And one of those primary resources is local compost. And that local compost that we're able to get here in Tucson is made by Tank's Green Stuff. And they're utilizing local landscape waste and turning that into organic compost. So that's a very valuable resource, and we want to make sure that we're able to use it as best we can, as opposed to bringing in organic matter from other regions. Some of the challenges with this local material is that they are a lot of landscape plants and a lot of desert plants that tend to be very salty, and ultimately we end up with a pretty alkaline, salty, dry soil mix. So there are some challenges with it, but through our trials and soil testing and a lot of different things over the years, we've really dialed in what we find to be just the perfect soil mix using these local materials. So particularly referring to the compost itself. So what we've done is we've created a guide that can help you for desert regions. It's called Building Healthy Soil, and you'll find it in the education section under resources on our website at thriveandgrowgardens.com. So by creating this guide, my purpose was really to cut out a lot of the guesswork that people are putting into starting their gardens. So the Building Healthy Soil guide is going to show you everything exactly that we put in our garden soil. And let's start with the main mix. And so the main ingredients of the soil. This includes pumice, which is this white rocky material, and that's in there for drainage. Also, the local compost, organic compost that Tank's Green Stuff makes here in Tucson. And another main ingredient is coconut coir, which is ground up coconut husks. And that really helps with water retention. In addition to that, there is some native topsoil in here, and they specifically, in our mix, the Thrive and Grow Gardens blend, use a topsoil that has a little more clay in it than some of their other mixes. And clay is very helpful when it comes to water retention and also nutrient retention into the soil. So those main basic ingredients, that is what we have in here to make sure we have the right amounts of moisture and water retention and drainage. And so that's where we're starting. Now, having in mind what the nutrient content is of our local compost, we've been able to figure out exactly what nutrients we should then be adding. People commonly make the mistake of over fertilizing their garden beds. And one thing we know about our local compost is that it already has a lot of phosphorus and potassium in it. So the main thing that it's missing early on is nitrogen. And so we added to this already cottonseed meal, and that's one of my favorite sources of organic nitrogen for the early mix. We also did add in some sulfur, which helps to bring down the alkalinity of the soil to a more neutral pH. And today what we're going to be adding into here are worm castings. These are local worm castings made by Inch here in Tucson. And we're using 2 5-gallon bags of worm castings for about 2 yards of soil for this 4-foot by 8-foot garden bed. And then we're also going to be adding in some humic acid. And the humic acid you can find locally at local garden centers and nurseries. We purchased this at EcoGrow here in Tucson, and we get it in big bags and break it down into smaller containers for taking out to the garden. So we just need to mix that in, and then we're at that point, we're just finishing off the irrigation. Will have us ready to plant our garden beds. So all we really need for this is a pitchfork, and that's my favorite tool for mixing things into the garden soil. And you may be wondering what these little clay implements are that you're seeing in the garden bed. If you haven't seen those before, I want to point out that we're going to be really careful not to break those with our pitchfork. These are called irrigation oyas, and I'll talk about that more in our irrigation video, but this is part of our irrigation system, and they're a clay vessel that's buried in the soil, about 2 gallons, and they seep water out into the soil. So we're gonna mix all of this in, and we'll cover the irrigation more in another video. Check out these worm castings. So worm castings are basically what's left over when worms process organic matter. So it's just really well processed organic matter, and it is filled with nutrients that are readily accessible by plants. It's really good stuff. You'll also find cocoons in this from the worms, and that'll actually help get the earthworms going in your garden bed as well. So I prefer fresh local worm castings over buying worms by the pound and adding them into the garden. See as I'm forking this in that there's some dust kind of flying up, and it really is an indication of just how dry this soil can be when you first get it. And I think that is one of the major challenges that people face with new local soil like this, is getting the soil hydrated well enough. So your irrigation methods are really important. I'm gonna record another video here shortly, and you can find that one that'll be talking all about how we set up our irrigation system with a combination of these irrigation oyas as well as drip tubing that you may have never heard of, but it's the best stuff out there, and I'll be happy to show you how it works and how you can put it into your garden beds. So you may have been eagerly waiting for some of these last secret ingredients, and I want to show you some things that will really help boost your soil health. One of the things I mentioned while I was mixing the soil is that it can be quite dry when it's first delivered, and it's really important to get all those dry areas out of the garden bed. So good even watering is important, but you can also use something like this. This is a wetting agent. It's called Yucca Wet, and this is a yucca root extract, and in a way it acts sort of like the same sort of way that soap does on your dish soap, and it helps to wet whatever you're putting it on. So when you have really dry soil like this, a wetting agent can make a big difference in helping the soil to recover and hold on to water really well. This also helps plants uptake nutrients really consistently from the soil. So I think this is a great addition to your gardening practices when establishing new soils with some of this Yucca Wet. And I'll add some of the links in the description to some of these items so that you can find them later. Also, in the same area where you found that Building Healthy Soil guide, we have a soil drench recipe. We're calling it a biostimulant soil drench, and these are some of those main ingredients that you're going to find there. The key ingredients that are really important are EM1, effective microorganisms. This is actually made here in Tucson. And this is the type of bacteria that you really want to see present in soils. And so we're helping to inoculate the soil with EM1. And then also we're using some molasses. And this unsulfured molasses is how we feed the bacteria, the EM1 bacteria, in the mix and help them to multiply before we add it to the soil. So you're gonna find that recipe on our website, the Biostimulant Soil Drench. We'll make sure to link that in the description. And I also wanna show you this product that I'm really excited about using today. This is called Sequester, and Sequester is also a bacteria, but it's really unique. This is a cyanobacteria, and cyanobacteria is actually uptake energy from the sun in the upper areas of the soil. That top 6 inches of the soil, the sun actually penetrates, and these bacteria will absorb that energy and they will convert that into some nutrients that we need. They'll actually fix nitrogen into the soil, so that'll really help us to have more nitrogen available to us with less fertilizing. And this also helps to tie up salt in the soil, which is particularly a problem in our desert soils, having a lot of salt, which comes in through our compost and also through our water. And in addition to that, it has been shown to cut water needs in commercial crops by as much as half. So this is going to really make a big difference for reducing the amount of water you're going to need in your soil, and also making sure that there's good nutrients available to your plants. So in these garden beds, we're actually going to be applying Sequester, and as I've mentioned, I really like this sort of application, the Biostimulant Soil Drench as well. So all those resources are available to you, and the links in the description on how to find them. All right, this is looking good. Our soil is amended. We'll be producing another video for you talking more about those other soil amendments, the Biostimulant Soil Drench and the Sequester, so stay tuned for that. But right before we plant, we'll just need to finish up the irrigation here, and I'll create another video for you on that as well, so you can see exactly how we connect all those parts together with the drip lines and also using our irrigation hoyas. So I hope this video has been helpful for you and you have a better idea of really what it takes to get healthy soil and a really good start for your new garden. Follow along and subscribe and like our videos. There's a lot that's available for you to learn, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next one.